In the months leading up to meeting with Dr. Sean, I had done two half marathons. So I did kind of like a 12-week ramp up, getting up to 40, 50 miles a week, running the race, kind of dropping back down, but still running, 4 or 5 days a week, 5 miles a day. Did another half marathon, and it's really, when you think about, I thought my diet was on pretty good level ground. I was eating good things. I was running a lot, and then when I met with Dr. Sean and saw the picture, saw the visualization of the fact that I was a TOFI, I was just shocked. Hi, I'm Daniel Valenti. I'm 39 from North Carolina. I'm an ex-distance runner, TOFI. I've got 3 kids, 10, 8, and 2, and I manage a team of product managers, and I work in tech.
You made the remark TOFI, so for the listener who may not understand what that is, why don't you expand on what you mean by that?
So TOFI is thin on the outside, fat inside, and I only was able to quantify that by getting an MRI scan.
One things I appreciated in an earlier conversation with you, Daniel, was to learn that you're a fit, driven guy. You've done a lot of endurance events. You're driven in your professional life, and you were pretty shocked to discover that you are thin on the outside, fat on the inside. Tell us a bit about what inspired you to see Dr. Sean to begin with, and were you expecting to get that how did he rate you in terms of your MRI?
He rated me a D minus. I've never gotten a D minus at any point in my life at anything, so it was certainly a shock. And yeah, I've been a distance runner. So I all through high school I did cross country running, cross country skiing, would run 50, 60, 70 miles a week. Kept that up in college and beyond. So I moved into triathlons, got all the way up to half Ironman triathlons. Never was a big fan of weightlifting. Always just did hours of cardio and running. But now I am a convert, and like a bunch of folks, I'm now doing more max intensity exercise, things like sprinting, things like burpees, and just totally kind of redid my whole approach towards fitness after seeing Dr. Sean. I still do walk though, and I ruck. So I bought a weighted backpack. I've got a 25-pound ruck weight in there, and so one thing that running really lets you do is clear your mind. It's a good form of meditation. I've just replaced that with weighted walking.
Dr. Sean jokes that he says it lightheartedly, but his toughest prospective clients are runners and vegetarians. And so, because
Yeah.
I ran college cross country and track, and it was far more than physical fitness. Like I just enjoy being outside, but you can replace all that with rucking like you do, sprints. You can still get all those endorphins flowing and get outside, just not do something that actually has been demonstrated to retain visceral fat. One of the things that I appreciate about Dr. Sean's approach is it really stands on its head, or it flips a lot of conventional knowledge. So many of his clients, they're very educated. They're adopting what have been sort of considered best practices for health over the years. I would characterize you as one of those. Like, what actually convinced you to look at things differently? Was it a conceptual thing? Were you struggling physically? What nudged you over the edge to actually explore this with Dr. Sean?
So I think, as many folks that are in their 30s and, kind of juggling family and career growth, maybe not feeling as fit as you were in the past. I've always been kind of in the quantified health space. So I like tracking things. I've got a number of different devices, and always looking to kind of measure things that are of interest, tracking them over time. And one thing that I did get a couple of years ago was a DEXA scan. That gives you kind of a more accurate version of your body fat percentage, and it does have an estimation of visceral fat. When I did get that scan, I noticed it was kind of high, especially given my weight and overall kind of what I perceive to be good fitness and good health. And I started listening. I actually found Dr. Sean on several podcasts. I started listening to his approach, to his some of his strategies, and a lot of it just clicked. And I finally made the decision that if I'm gonna do this right, I'm gonna do it right. So contacted Dr. Sean, and flew out to Minneapolis, got my scan. Unfortunately, it did not come back as good as I wanted it, but what he said at the consult was, the fact that you are so bad that you do have this D minus rating means that if you put the optimization principles in practice, the upside of that is going to be incredible, and that's certainly what I'm seeing. So I've been a client of Dr. Sean for about 7 months now, and continuing to optimize. Long way to go still, but it's definitely a journey.
Did you know going in, this is certainly something I discovered, that as a thin on the outside, fat on the inside individual, you're actually at higher risk for health complications? That was news to me when I met with Dr. Sean. Did you know that? And what did you think of that?
Yeah, it certainly was something that got on my radar only after listening to several of Dr. Sean's podcasts and reading a lot of his research. But yeah, and it surprised me, right? Because and I think that with a lot of the folks that like-minded folks that I've met as a function of working with Dr. Sean, it's the fact that we're driven, we want to continuously improve and never settle for anything. I think that that personality of always trying to be better does put some stress on your body, and if left unchecked, that I was going down a trajectory that was not good.
Yeah, that's such a great point. I remember thinking that. He said that many of his clients, because they're more driven individuals, they're willing to take on stress for their family or their company or their business. And I think as you're speaking, it reminds me of his, I'd love to ask you about this, one of his first principles that he invites any potential client to embrace, which is that your body is your most important physical asset. And talk to me about, because it's not like you're not driven anymore, or you don't care for your work, or you care for your family. It's almost like it seems to me like a reprioritization. How did you shift that from harmful stress to like productive stress? Because some of the strategies aren't the easiest.
Yeah, I've really embraced the good stress. So things like getting in a sauna and sitting in a hot Finnish sauna for 20 minutes. That's a stress, but that's a stress that's moving you in the right direction. I've been working on a progressive burpee program where I try to get as many burpees into a 20-minute operating window, and that's a stress. That's very different than my previous workouts, which might have been a 2-hour run on a Sunday. Now I'm doing a 20-minute max effort session, and I've got kind of time left in the week to do other things, to learn new things, to embrace some of these other strategies. So it's not that the stress has gone away. It's just I've reprioritized the stresses that are going to give me and my body the greatest potential for growth rather than breakdown.
I appreciate your remarks as a client of Dr. Sean's too regarding his, he pays attention to research and data, but it's like he flips the context so much to take it out of a linear, isolated data point thing to a broader context, a broader context with which one can examine what it is to be biologically optimal. And so he talks a lot about key biological indicators, and I love his definition. I'd be interested to hear what your answer is to this. I love his definition of health being really in part a function of appearance and performance. And for instance, discovering the emergence of visible pulses on my arm and elbow that I didn't even have when I started working with him. It's such a great indicator of cardiovascular health. What are some things you've noticed in terms of your appearance or your body as you've adopted his strategies?
So one thing that I do is I take a picture of my face every Monday and just look at that over time. And I've seen, I haven't like my body mass and I've lost some fat percentage, body fat percentage since starting, but I haven't lost a ton of weight. I think just in the process of lifting weights and doing resistance training and sprinting and doing the burpees, I've likely added some lean muscle. I do need to go back and get a DEXA scan to confirm that again. I think the DEXA and the MRI, they're both interesting. The MRI obviously lets you visualize the amount of visceral fat that you have quite directly, and it is impactful. The DEXA is another tool to just look at progress over time. But yeah, it's sort of like with when you get blood tests, right? It's a snapshot in time that's part of a really complex system, and it could, if you start chasing noise, if you start chasing a signal that you think is occurring in in a blood test or in anything else that you're measuring, you got to make sure that you get to the root cause. And I think applying the optimization strategies, principles, and interventions that Dr. Sean talks about, that helps you get to the root cause of good health. But yeah, I would say pictures. Yeah, the brain is really good at spotting patterns and trends, and things that don't fit the pattern. So like if you start taking, apply an intervention, start taking pictures of your face, and then go back 2-3 months, and if you notice a difference, if it's looking better, keep doing what you're doing. If it's not, maybe time to take pause and understand what else you can do.
So as a client of Dr. Sean's, what do you appreciate most about him as an individual and just working with him?
I have to say that I've never worked with a more generous doctor with his time than Dr. Sean. He will, I feel like he's, will drop anything to answer a question or send me a paper or ask me how I'm doing, or if I'm, struggling with something, give me a bunch of strategies to look through. So, and that, that kind of relationship that I have, that I consider him a friend now too, because it's just been a real treat to work with him, and unlike any other doctor that I've worked with in my life. So, and I'm glad that I found him, and I'm glad that his approach, which is let's focus on applying lifestyle interventions that are going to get you better, rather than ordering more tests or immediately going to a prescription pad. It's just a refreshing kind of relationship to have with a medical professional that I really appreciate.
One thing, and this is how we met, and I really appreciate about myself being a client of Dr. Sean's, is the private groups he puts us in with other clients. I know that Daniel and I, for the sake of the viewer, he mentioned burpees. We've geeked out on connecting about upping our burpee game and tracking that progress. So what's been your experience of being part of a larger client group, which I love, and I also love, I think it's brilliant marketing, and it's also true. Dr. Sean refers to all of us as alphas. So we're part of various alpha groups, these private groups we can share things in. What's that been like for you?
In general, with kind of getting together with like-minded individuals, everyone gets better together. And if you're struggling, having people that you can talk to or ask questions, or geek out about a fast or struggle through a fast or send a picture of a feast when you're done, it's a support system that is really necessary, because Dr. Sean's principles are simple but not easy. There will be struggles. I did like 112-hour fast a couple of weeks ago, and at no point during that fast was it easy. But it was nice to have a group to ask questions with. So, in the first 3 or 4 months of the program, I was doing it alone. Obviously, I had the support of my wife and my family, but the people that I talk to day to day, they're not on the same health journey largely. So it really clicked when we had the group, and that that's so critical to, I think, the success of the program is getting not only the playbook for health optimization, not only visualizing the enemy inside with the MRI, but then also having a group of people that you can go on this journey with together. It's really, all three of those components are so critical.
So, what would you tell somebody sitting on the fence who, like me as an example, or maybe like you, is a student of health, likes to hack things, figure it out, but they're a little resistant to taking the plunge and actually reaching out to Dr. Sean to work with him?
I think it's tough, right? Because it is an investment. If you're not local to Dr. Sean, you have to physically travel there. You have to get on a plane. You have to invest in the MRI. It's not something that's covered by insurance. It's an out of pocket cash purchase. But you'll find that your body is your most important asset, and this is an investment. I view this as important as my saving for retirement or my kids' college. It's an investment in being able to be healthy, to age in reverse, and to be able to I want to see my grandchildren's weddings, and I want to be able to still go to the grocery store when I'm 90, and I want to live independently. So it's not just about running 10 really fast sprints and being able to do that over time. It's winning the Olympics of being able to do all the things that you want to do when you're 80 plus.